So there are, I'm going to, do they have both parts, Dana?
They have all three.
Okay,
So the
so,
first one is this one. You just have to flip the page.
so this is for a local educational agency to look at its strengths, look at the, the direction that we would like to go. And as you all recommended, prior to engaging in a strategic planning process, it would be good to know where are we at with different structures, and the alignment of different initiatives and coordination is something that we have heard a number of times is really important. So in this exercise, what I'm going to do is we'll go through these three components to talk about the shared beliefs, vision and mission, leadership and governance, and the clear and collaborative relationships. There are statements that describe, where we're at, and that's what the A, B, C, D cards are for. So I think the best way to start is to just get into an example of looking at the shared visions and beliefs. So if you look at this sheet that says the LEA self-assessment, Dana put it into 3 sections because we're going to review 3 sections of the whole self-assessment. To do the entire self-assessment takes hours and hours, and it depends on how many people you have involved and how robust of a discussion you want. So there's subcategories in each of these. And I think the most important thing is to really look at the indicators, these are the actions and the behaviors of the school district, the board, and the employees, and really look at where we are at. The categories are laying the foundation, meaning we might not have even gotten started. Installing, that we're kind of thinking about it and initiating some new ideas or programs. Implementing, which is a level above installing, or continuous improvement and sustainability. That would be, there's a number of years where we have these kinds of behaviors that we can predict we will be able to have in the future. So that's a pretty high level. I went through this exercise with the MTSS leadership team last year, our whole leadership team. I did not lead I did not facilitate that discussion. So, so these do not, I'm sorry, these aren't matching up with the quadrants. There's a little bit of coordination we have to do here. Okay. So on this diagram, you'll have to have these things side by side.
You do
need to, it's kind of like the DMV, where you have the actual work, and then there's the sheet that shows you. So on the second page, it shows A, B, C, and D, and that's what the cards are for. So that you could go, okay, when we're talking about a particular indicator, I feel, for example, that we are installing, and that's B. And what I'm going to do is actually just simply take your votes, and we'll do the first one, and it'll be slow, and then we can probably move a little faster. So we'll go ahead, and the board will each give their vote for each of these indicators. We will take notes, and it'll just give us a starting place. What questions do you have? Should we just try to get clunkily
I have
through
a question right
Sure.
up. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is not looking like I think it should be looking.
Uh-huh.
So installing means we have not begun, or like
So
laying the foundation.
laying the foundation is kind of with that, that laying the foundation is the least developed.
Okay.
Yeah. So D is like, we've been doing this for a while and it's good. A would be, we are barely started, or we're just getting started. So if you did them, yes, in order of the evolution of an organization. Oops, is anybody missing a C? Because I have an extra C.
I have an extra D,
Okay.
and an extra A, and an extra B.
Oh,
You got a double packet.
so I think the other thing is, instead of us,
Oh, that's it.
I might feel like we're further along with something than somebody else. And so that's why the organization that puts this together actually has specific things that indicate where we're at. So we're starting with component 1, which is shared beliefs, vision, and mission. And if you have these two pieces of paper side by side, then you're ready to go. So you can compare. So it's the second page, but I'll wait for everybody to get there because you're here, you're ready. You're exactly, that's exactly it. Yep. So we're gonna look at these indicators for vision. And that's exactly it. Yeah. So that's the second page on each one.
Get it open.
And you have dry fingers, you might have, there's spaces for writing narratives. I did not think we would go into that. I thought we would just do.
So should we just hold up the cards that we think where we're at?
Yep.
And all do it all at once so
Yes.
nobody looks at anybody else?
Yes, exactly. So, but so you'll have to wait. Don't wait, don't go early.
Should we talk about it first?
No, we're just,
Well-
we're doing it ourselves and then we'll talk.
So we will, yeah, so I'll have you vote, and if we all, if, everybody says we're at B, then we'll know the discussion maybe is not gonna be as involved, because there's a lot of agreement. So we have a couple of options, depending on how time involved. I will read the first one, 1.3 LEA support for safe learning environments and student engagement. It's the first one that you all have.
What are we doing?
No, I'm lost there.
So on this page right here.
So this one, I'm not looking at there.
Component one.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Are we looking at shared
These aren't-
beliefs, vision and vision?
Yes, so mine's not complete. I need to get. I don't know why this-
Where is it?
No, I don't think any of them are.
Oh, no.
So,
Oh, I got component one.
yep, component one. Yeah, it should start with 1.1. So we're gonna have to take, should have been what we did during the break.
I'm gonna double check.
So where are the other ones?
Go to the next one and
Okay, I have it. That's my old one.
I think we have those too.
We have these?
Yeah,
These
I
full?
can just go get a whole bunch of them.
So, hold on, Terry, we're gonna get the right ones because
I'm just thinking you read the thing under quadrant A.
No, there's a whole.
yes, yeah, we have to look through all of the indicators.
And then you check off whether you think that while you're reading them, right? Is that what you're doing?
Sure, you could do it that, and then you may say, oh, I got half A's and half B's, but I'm gonna go ahead but I wanna make sure that you are all starting on the right one. The packets that you got are missing 1.1 and 1.2, because if you open this, it starts with 1.3. So I wanna start at the beginning. Something's not right.
1.1 and 1.2.
Yeah, are missing, so just hang on, and Dana's gonna go with it.
Is that like this?
It starts with LEA vision, 1.1 LEA vision and mission. Yeah,
Okay.
I was ready for you last time.
My old one that I didn't bring it.
Yeah, we're gonna-
Well, we could be checking this off while we're reading.
We could start with 3. I just feel like it might get a little bit.
Well, I don't understand why we're messed up here. I'm on page 7. Does everybody else have? page
No, we
7?
want to start on page 3. We gotta start on page 3.
Saying we're missing.
There's some, so,
We did differently, so this one has something.
Well,
Even some you don't.
So this will be fun.
being passed out, can I tell a quick story about vision? 30 years ago, a group of us got together in Willow Creek to create a vision. And one member of our group
there you
said,
go.
this might take decades. Are you really willing to do this? And I said, yeah. I was not 30 years younger.
All right.
So, yeah.
You got it?
Vision.
Page 3.
Anyway, part of that vision involved a wastewater system for our downtown so that we could be, so that Willow Creek could be dense and not spread all over the place down up and down the highway. We just took a major step in the right direction a couple of days ago in the town. Not quite in the bag, but it's getting very close anyway. So I am a believer in
And yeah,
that was the
okay.
vision we worked on 30 years ago.
Wow, so you took a major step a couple of days ago, but you're not gonna tell us what it was.
We have $6.5 million to build a wastewater system through federal and state grants, and we went out finally after all these years, went out to bid. The bids came in, but they were a little bit high. Government But the service district had a meeting with the lending agencies and they're gonna consider upping their money because they know that Willow Creek needs a wastewater system and they know that there is some federal money out there for infrastructure. So we're still waiting, but as soon as they give the word that they'll up and release what the bidder said, we're getting close to it, then we can proceed.
Yeah.
That was 30 years ago. As a father, that's particularly important to me because if we get it, then my daughter will actually build it.
Oh, wow.
Not personally, but she'll supervise it because she's now the manager of the district, and that would be a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so in your new packet, if you're on page 3, that's our starting point. It's component 1, shared belief, vision and mission, 1.1, LEA vision and mission. In order to kind of make sure everybody's on the same page, the way that we do this is one person can read the summary at the top, and then we can take a couple minutes to individually go through the indicators, and then we'll take a vote. So Martha, are you on that page 3? Yeah. Do you want to read the first one? I know some of you have gone ahead and are looking at it. Recalibrate.
LEA vision and mission provides a collaboratively developed descriptive picture of an LEA's preferred future as outlined in, I gotta open this up, sorry. Our LEA's mission is a collaboratively developed description of how our LEA will achieve its vision. Stakeholders involved in the process are representative of our LEA's demographics and include students, parents, community members, teachers, staff, the Board of Education, and others. Together, the vision and mission guide LEA in school practices, policies, and goal development, resulting in increased student achievement, embracing the concepts, closing the gap, as well as raising the bar for all students.
So you could read through each of, if you'd like to continue doing it out loud, we could do it out loud, or we could each just, I could set about 3 to 5 minutes to read and make a determination.
Okay, so what I'm wondering is, so we actually start on the bottom and go.
Yes.
Go up, okay.
And I'm very sorry, it's that zigzaggy. So the bottom left quadrant is the most fundamental foundational.
Right,
Move to the right, zigzag up. So the order is laying the foundation is not yet started. Installing is working towards implementing. Above that, implementing is making change in the system. And then the most advanced is continuous improvement and sustainability.
okay. So we have to decide which one of these
Yep.
where we think.
Where we think we are at. And so then I'll ask you to attach A, B, C, or D to it. So if everybody wants to, do you want to read or do you want me to just kind of time for a couple minutes? Okay. I'll just put it. Anybody that wants more time before they're ready to give an A, B, C, or D. So I can put the numbers behind this, behind me. Laying the foundation, installing, implementing, and then continuous improvement. And I like the word they have sustainability in them. So I'm just gonna note who's voting for what. And so I'm gonna ask you to pick your card and show it all at the same time. And then we'll just look and see how it is. You can go ahead and show your A, B, C, or D for this.
Okay, hang on a second.
Okay. Oh,
Clarity.
you want me to move my head?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. That's right in front of me. Okay.
It wasn't before I did it while you all were reading. So let me see what you have
For implementing,
for,
or laying the foundation.
so which one are you, which one are is your assessment of our district? So I'm just gonna go ahead and just quickly jot down where everybody's kind of at.
I think we're doing installing, right?
Okay, all right, go ahead, thank you. So everybody said installing, except we have one that's laying the foundation. So can you go ahead and just give our point of view? And I think that's,
I don't feel like we recognize or disconnect between our vision and the practices and policies and following those policies. I think we do have some in place, but I don't think that we follow them. I don't think we know them. And I don't think we apply them.
great, thanks. Can I pick someone who can say why they thought why we are installing? Or I can pick someone.
You go ahead.
Okay, Tom? Some evidence, I guess. Is what-
Okay, evidence, I think we're installing in that we're beginning, B is a smashing approval. But for example, our vision does mention health, and I think the progress has been made in our school district with the granted, we have COVID, it's challenging all of it, but the progress we've made with our health issues is, I think it's been good considering we're starting. We have with people like Two Feathers around and that whole office over there, I think is definitely a step in the right direction. It qualifies this health school. I think we can go a lot further.
I chose B because I think we're making progress but not everybody is. And the words inconsistent stood out to me. I mean, I've been saying that forever and ever and ever. I mean, even when I was teaching, we would have discussions. I'd go, well, yeah, that's all fine and good, but it's inconsistent. Some people do it, some people don't. And then we start a new program and say, we're all gonna be doing this, and then administration changes or superintendents change and it's go on to something else. So I think inconsistent is a key word.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add as evidence for saying that we're installing? Can you live with us being a B? We can revote. Yeah. Okay, so installing, there's evidence that some alignment exists between LEA and school planning documents, practices, policies, and the vision and mission in all of our LEA schools as identified in our LEA planning documents, the LPAC, but it's inconsistent within our LEA schools. Few schools have the capacity to lead school improvement. Some stakeholders have knowledge of the LEA's vision and mission and not implemented consistently. So that's kind of where you all landed with that. So, okay, thank you. So I'm going to say B, and I'm going to move on to 1.2 in the mission, vision. Carrie, can you read the leading idea for promotion of positive school culture?
Promotion of positive school culture reflects the norms, behaviors, and practices of an LEA that ensures staff and students are connected and valued. A growth mindset underlies the culture. Our LEA measures perceptions of school safety and connectedness and reports to the governing board.
I'll set a couple minutes. Okay.
So are we all reading our things and deciding which one?
Yes, go ahead and read through each one. Looking for evidence.
When, well, everybody's reading, can you explain to me, it keeps referring to LEA.
Oh, yeah,
LEA is.
The
LCAP,
district.
The district,
the,
okay.
the agency, and we would normally say the district charter schools, they now includes charters.
that it? Is everything done?
So, yeah, thanks. Let me know if you would like more time. Hasn't quite been. Do you want more time? Okay, so if you'll go ahead and grab the card that you want to show.
It's showing on which one,
So,
implementing? Or the, well, which card?
A,
Oh,
B,
yeah.
C, or D, which
Yeah,
one?
that's what I mean.
This is A, B, C, D.
Oh, it's A, B, C, D.
yeah, so, sorry, Debbie, I put this up afterwards. So if you feel like we're laying the foundation, we've barely gotten started, that would be A. B would be,
This is just starting, and that's doing wonderful.
okay, so I'll go ahead and 3, 2, 1. See what you have.
Yeah.
Just take a quick note. So which one do you think we are?
Oh, and the, in the B, right? What we're doing here. No, this is A, this is, oh, that's B.
This is B, and this is C.
They're upside down, Debbie, so it makes it really hard to.
Yeah, I
So
would.
like, so D is like the best.
Okay.
And it's opposite of where you would start reading.
Right.
Do you need us to redo it? Or?
No, I took notes. So did you say, were you saying B?
Yes.
Or, okay, so this will have some discussion because we have 3 A's, 3 B's, and a C. So, Tom, would you like to start? Because you're the outlier for evidence of implementing.
One piece is that an important part of this LEA is a school board. It's one of the components, and I've been on a lot of boards, and this one now, the people are a little bit different than the one a couple of years ago when I was on, but in both cases, I was impressed. In both cases, it's the best I've ever seen the boards. So I give our LEA, I want to give our LEA credit for and the process that we're doing now. We're actually working towards it. I have, this was a couple of years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, but twice, so I can't go into detail because these were in closed session, but twice in suspension expulsion hearings, we heard about, we were told about students who made very smart choices and reported things that were very serious. And I think that I was impressed that somebody must be teaching them what proper behavior is. But,
Thank you.
so I think as an organization, that's what I think we're doing. We're talking about the LEA, not necessarily a report card of our students, but as an LEA, I think that progress is being made.
Thanks.
I also saw it in the another evidence was in the numbers of expulsions in our report card has significantly gone down.
So we've built up something to catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safety nets that we have been installing.
I'm gonna ask for somebody who gave a B of installing. Tom's was C, implementing. Somebody was B, installing, to give the evidence that you see that we're installing. Can you go ahead, Rob, with what?
Well, for about as long as I've been on the board, we have been working toward, standards and practices and policies. We've been working with the Indian community on being more integrated. And that whole time, we've been trying to work with teachers to get, have everybody on the same page. So it's been quite a long time, and I think that, we're probably still installing because things do change and things are. But I was pretty tempted to go to the implementing point, but I don't think we're quite. We try to implement. We're trying very hard, but I think we're still kind of trying to get everybody on the same page at this point. Over this time period is kind of been a challenge.
I think I did this backwards. I probably should have started with somebody who said laying the foundation and then gone more evidence, but here we are. And so, Carrie, you voted, you said that we're laying the foundation. Do you have any, I feel like now we're
I have
breaking things
regrets
down,
of
but what
that
were your,
decision. I'm asked after I reading this over because I was teetering when we went to vote. I think I'd rather go with B.
so you
Because
feel like there
I
are
don't-
some
I don't think
pieces.
it's that bad. Our LEA is the whole school district,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
It's not just the school.
The whole
board.
team, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll go on B.
So Laura Lee, do you want to chime in for that level of, how to get started?
Our LEA has limited or non-existent processes to effectively promote positive school cultures in all schools. Yes, we have limited processes. Parents and community members are not aware of the norms, behaviors, and practices that contribute to a positive school culture. And I would add teachers into that list. The values and practices tied to improvement efforts are limited in our LEA schools. The actions are not systemic. Some of our schools are doing great, others are not. Few schools demonstrate a commitment to continuous improvement. The actions are not systemic. I see especially at our largest school where the leadership changes, and so the actions are not systemic. They keep changing. Our LEA has not yet begun to build a culture of commitment, collegiality, mutual respect, and stability. And I think we're seeing that in our Facebook comments, and a lot of it's coming from our school employees, which really degrades a positive school culture perspective. And that just eats away at what we have developed. And so I think we're still laying the foundation. Professional norms are not yet developed. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what professional norms we may have that go across all of our employees across the district. So I feel we still have laying of the foundation to do.
And I think when you frame it as laying the foundation, it's not necessarily a deficit, it's just barely getting started.
Limited, I think limited.
Limited.
Maybe something too that we need to remember is that when the community comes and expresses their unhappy state, they're not doing it because it's personally something that's they're unhappy about. They're doing it because they want the best for their children. So we need to, I think that we try to do a very good job of creating a positive school culture, but we're missing the mark if it's not funneling out into the community and into the classroom. I agree with Tom. Our kids are awesome. They have character. You know, this is not a report card on our students. I think it has to be about our staff, ourselves, our administration. I don't believe that we're sitting here assessing students.
It's about what we're doing.
Right.
Is there anybody else that'd like to add something to the conversation? What I'll do is, since the vote was so scattered, I'll ask for everybody to consider what you've heard from each other, and we'll do a re-vote. So I'm gonna close the door. If anybody wants to add anything else to sway, it's not just because of the temperature, not because we want people out.
But you do have, I would be willing to go with the B.
And I would too.
The consensus is the
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
And I would accept that.
If you start off lower and go up, then you miss something.
I think one more thing, can I say something? Sure. I think with the change in technology, we need to have change in policy about what professional norms are. We need to keep up with our time and not consider professional norms what we would have.
And
wanted
that's,
back.
that's something that, you know, we found technology came along so fast that we didn't have a chance to figure out what was polite and what wasn't polite. And I think it's getting better. I think people are getting better at going, oh, gee, maybe I shouldn't have said that on Facebook. But we're not there yet. You know, so.
And you're ready to, oh.
Yeah, I think we came to a consensus.
Oh, well, just while I was closing the door. Okay, so what did you all decide?
B.
Okay. Great. All right, thank you. So we're gonna go on to the last component of vision and mission, which is on page 7. Raise your hand wildly if you haven't found it. Tom, can you go ahead and read the 1.3 component, please?
LEA planning documents include programs and strategies that include behavioral expectations and consequences for actions, as well as knowledge and skills needed by the students and the staff to promote safe physical and social, emotional, and learning environments. LEA uses restorative practices to cultivate positive relationships in classrooms and at school sites.
So we're going to look at which indicators you think we need. It's been about 3 minutes. Would anybody like more time to make the decision? Go ahead and grab your card. A for laying the foundation, B for installing, C implementing, and D continuous improvement, and show them in 3, 2, 1.
No, that was unanimous.
Almost. So I'm gonna try this a different way. So I'd like for somebody who said that we are installing to just give the evidence that they see. And then I'm gonna go to the person who said we're a little bit more advanced. So we can start with the foundation.
Okay.
So you'll cut, is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay. So Carrie, can you give some evidence of how we are installing our support for safe learning environment?
Well, our LEA is building behavior support systems at each school. And I think some schools are further along than others. But I think we're in the process of building them at each school. And we're working towards collecting data to assist schools in reviewing the behavior outcomes.
Did anybody else who's installing want to add some evidence?
We think with our 2 feathers, that's the big piece that we've been installing at all sites, even though and while I'm still in the implementation, it's because of not all schools have the same process to get service from the Wellness Center 2 Feathers. So I think that we're still in the implementation versus that we're there.
For me, I had us all in A, laying the foundation, but I think with the supplement of 2 feathers and the student officer at the high school, I think it bumped us up to the B area. I think that we expect our behavioral issues to be handled by the school administrator on campuses, and we think that pulls us down, so that's all it's going to be.
Trauma-informed learning has also built in a building block.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't heard much about trauma-informed practices and how that is progressing this past school year with COVID and whatnot. But there was a big push for that in the beginning.
Martha, do you want to tell us why you found more evidence that we're more advanced or anything else?
Well, so I think that our LEA ensures that a universal behavioral support system is in place. We have the MTSS. And we have trauma-informed practices. I believe that most schools are implementing trauma-informed practices. I think that the parents do recognize that a safe learning. I feel like we've been told that a lot of times from parents that they recognize that as safe environment is needed. So I could have gone between B and C. I kind of went, back and forth like that. But I was kind of taking a page out of Tom's book by thinking positively on the things that I do know that we are doing and that are working. However, having said all that, it's really hard to determine what's working when you're only getting half of your students at school. So
can you live with the group assigning us a level of installing? Okay. I have a couple of things that when I do a summary, I'll share out in terms of some of the pieces, because I think that even if they're there, if everybody doesn't know, it's different than if they're there and everybody knows and everybody has the same access. So I'm looking for kind of summarizing all this, but I want to keep us moving along. So that is the conclusion of the shared beliefs vision and mission part, which is really important, big picture stuff for you all as a board to be very on top of the direction that you want to take the school district. So the second part is you go ahead to, we're going to skip the second component, which is teaching, learning, and assessment. It is by no means to say it is unimportant. It is just in terms of what the board can really address. Originally, we were only going to do component 3. So you skip ahead to page, oh, that one's a big one. Page 21 and 21, really. This is leadership and governance. And originally, when Melanie and Jack were here, we were just going to do this one component. But when I really thought about it, I thought the vision and the mission is really important. But this is kind of the heart of our working with the board and then working with the admin team. So page 21. I think. So it starts with leadership and governance. It's kind of funky gray. And would you just read that 3.1 introductory part?
The LEA Administrative Leadership Team and Board of Education.
Yes.
Refers to our LEA administration and the board's critical role in aligning policies, resources, and funding to the LEA's goals and priorities and overseeing the impact of those members.
So I'll go ahead and just let you know. 2 minutes is up. Just. That was only 2 minutes, but is there anybody that would like to have time to read and decide? Go ahead and grab your cards. Take the vote in 3, 2, 1. Hold on just a moment. Okay. Go ahead and put them down. Flip this again. So, Kadusha, would you go ahead and say evidence that you see that we are actually installing this component?
I think that there are a lot of times when we have a policy that we're supposed to be following. Just like when we passed the policy and procedures with Indian education and then didn't follow them with our hiring practices. So I think that I'm between installing and implementing, but I think that that needs to be noted, that we need to align our policies with our funding sources. And we have a lot of money coming in through that program, and I think we need to be sure that we're doing what we say we're going to be doing.
So the policies exist, but they're not,
Yes,
they're not
being
carried
adhered
through.
And I'm between B and C, so.
Debbie, can you add something, a little more
Right,
evidence of?
the implementing, yes, and that's what,
Yeah.
right, that's what I was thinking about is that the administrative leadership team ensures that our policies and resources and fundings will address our goals and priorities to increase student achievement. I see that we are, doing that, and then our reports are here, that we, like what we received today, is showing the outcome of what the students' reports are, and how they're learning and how we're doing in our schools. So it seems like it's working, even though the numbers don't look good and it's not a great, report. It seems like it is there. And then our LEA has policy and process for selecting research-based practices, and the selection may involve selected school administrators and teaching staff. And it seems like we are doing that.
Anybody else that wants to add to the level of implementing some evidence that you have?
I was actually looking at continuous improvement until I got to the last one there. Our LEA has a clear written policy and process for selecting research-based practices. And I couldn't recall anything like that. But I do know under implementing the research-based practices, like with the new reading program, also our wellness center with Two Feathers, he uses research-based practices. And there was one more I had in mind of what we are doing research-based, but it's not coming to me. But I do feel that the funding does address our goals with the LCAP. And so what we say we're going to do is there. So anyway, I chose C.
The success for all is one of the ones that we're doing, research-based practices. I think that's going to be a good program. And we're implementing that right now.
Can you live with us being at C? Okay, so you won't have to revote. Okay, so I have C for LEA Administrative Leadership Team and the board. So the next component is 3.2. Leadership and governance. We're on page 23. Laura Lee, will you read the introduction to this section?
Leadership and governance, the LEA support for leadership learning and development refers to how the LEA builds capacity of central office and school building administrators as instructional leaders to effectively monitor, supervise, and support high-quality teaching and learning. Building systems thinking, leaders ensures coherent improvement efforts that impact student and adult learning.
Couple minutes.
Can I get some, so central office meaning district office?
Yes, and you know, and I
School
wonder,
building leaders meaning principals?
I think I would think about that flexibly, school building administrators, primarily principals, but that could include their office staff.
Okay.
So that was 2 minutes. Would anybody like a couple more moments? All right, okay, so go ahead and grab your card. And place your vote for support for leadership, learning, and development. All right, I have your votes. So, Tom, can you go ahead? You put installing, correct?
I did.
Can you give us some evidence of how you feel like we're working towards implementation and installing?
Well, I would like to say that in making this vote, I have to acknowledge my limited understanding or I remember it was this way when we did our the board worked on evaluation of our superintendent. There were questions about how does our superintendent use her time, and I had to say, well, I don't know how much time she spends with psych principals, for example. So I can't. I'm speaking a little bit out of ignorance and guesswork. So I knew that all of these things that LEA does provide opportunities for the school building leaders, and that does provide opportunities for network. I knew all those things existed, but I didn't know how much, so I wasn't quite comfortable going up to see.
Anybody else that had installing want to add?
Yeah, I, like Tom, I'm not aware of what opportunities our school principals have to attend conferences and professional learning sessions. I also felt that our LEA provides limited opportunities for networking, and leaders have limited time to learn from one another. I do know you do have weekly administrator meetings, which is networking and informative. And I do know that you do provide limited guidance to administrators, especially dealing with issues that pop up at the school sites. But I don't know that there is an ongoing, structured, regular opportunity to move up to C.
I also think that our grades is going to be a reflection of our own site. And so I think that there are going to be some responses that are just going to be that way because of the differences in the site. So I know for me, I chose B because I really feel like our administrators need to be accountable for the productivity of teachers. And I think enough time has gone by that we should be having some improvements, and we don't.
Well, I think we have the site councils, right? Aren't the site councils the way that parents are being able to be informed about the changes or the policies and things for the school, right? And also the teachers have don't they have one day a week that they collaborate about things and to do with the schools and, seeing what's opportunities are provided them, right?
I think we're talking more about leadership, so our principals. and-
Yeah.
Right, right at the top here, it says, administrators and instructional leaders to effectively monitor quality teaching and learning. So if they were talking about, my perception was talking about principals.
Support that they get in order to offer. And I think site council is a mechanism because a lot of PD can be identified through the site council with the Title I funding. So it's one of the ways. Martha, did you have anything else to add? Because you were saying there's more evidence.
I have seen the evidence of administrators providing guidance to site administrators and feedback to teachers for continuous improvement. And I guess I was thinking of the administrative meetings as being a provision for administrators to share, you know, what works, what doesn't work. And I think a lot of administrators take it upon themselves to collaborate with each other. I guess that's not something we provide, but it's something that they provide themselves.
I'm aware of administrators going to professional development conferences.
I mean, like when school's not in session or,
Pardon me?
it would like when school's not in session, they do them on the vacation.
That and also when school is in session.
Oh,
Sometimes they
okay.
take time.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and facilitate. I would say that if there's something that does not fully meet the criterion, that you should probably look at, well, it may be happening, because implementing is pretty robust, and it's not just like it's happening on the regular opportunities. So I feel like there is some good faith optimism, and I can assure you all of these things are happening. I think the real question is it predictable? Which do you know for certain structured and regular opportunities versus people are doing things. So just to contemplate that, because you're gonna have to re-vote because we didn't have a consensus. So in terms of just facilitating the conversation, if there's anything that doesn't meet your higher level criteria, I would go back to a lower level, because we really need to say, I know that that is there, not only because there's a lot of things that are there that you might not have access to. There's probably more than one on that you may know of, but if you don't know that it's happening regularly, I think that it should be, I would go conservative. So I just want to give you all another second, and then I'll ask you to re-vote, and we'll see if we split. It's a shift because it's a complete 50-50 split if you can do that with a 7-person.
I like Tom, I'm unaware of what's happening. So if someone knows of structured regular opportunities for all central office and school building leaders to share best practices, what is that? How are we doing that? I don't know.
So I think if you can't, you don't know, then you would have to say installing. I can try to answer questions, but
I would go back to installing, because I think it's safe to go back down and build up, than think we're here and we're not really here, we're down here. So I'll go back to them.
any other questions?
During vote.
I'd like for you to re-vote, so at the count of 3 or just whenever you want. Okay, there you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and put B. And again, I'll write up some notes, and I think that is really more accurate. I think that C is not far off, but in terms of it being structured and everybody knowing and having access, I don't think we're quite there yet. So, okay, I'm gonna move on to page 25. I forgot who read last. Okay, so Debbie, we're on page 25.
Component 3, leadership and governance. 3.3, LEA support for school leadership teams and shared leadership is essential for effective implementation of strategies and programs, academic and behavioral.
Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes just to read through and give more time. Please take it.
Uh-oh.
Does anybody need additional time to make their decision? Okay, well, you go ahead and show me your cards. Always the optimist. Okay. So this was hard. I'm not voting, but I realized that if you don't fulfill all of the next highest one, go back one. So Rob, did you have a B?
I had,
You're an A. I'm sorry.
not a Z, I'm kind of optimistic.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to ask Tom about what evidence you see about laying the foundation for this.
Well, I have certainly seen budgetary references to school leadership teams. We've approved money for them. But
Can you answer the question?
but I don't,
No, I'm not saying that to you. I was just asking, like, do we have a leadership team?
yeah, but I don't see I haven't seen enough evidence to know that they're all that they're at schools. I don't see principals in their monthly periodic reports saying, this is what we came up with. I see more talk about the site councils. I see that reported. But once again, it could be ignorance on my part. Could be I'm not paying enough attention, but I don't see the evidence that it exists at every site yet.
I saw evidence that they existed with, when John Ray was here, he started leadership teams at the high school, but they didn't continue. It wasn't a successful thing. So no, I think that they don't exist at every site, and they don't exist as far as I know at all right now.
That's what I was asking when I interrupted Tom. I'm so sorry for interrupting you. Can you answer the question? Do we have leadership team?
Well, I think I'm looking at how we define school leadership teams. I would say that site councils are school leadership teams. And it kind of gives us an out saying they do not exist at every site. I mean, we have to have them unless, so there's that part. And then there's, in terms of school leadership teams, there are PBIS teams at every site with the exception of 2 small, very tiny schools. So the PBIS initiative is not up and rolling at every site. There is a literacy team at Hoopa. So I would say in addition to what is the legally required site council, they don't exist. But it just depends on how, I mean, this is kind of a style. You could say, yes, site council is a leadership team, but that,
What
I've
did
been
we
on site
hire?
council before and we did that and we had to take minutes of our meeting
Yeah.
and all those had to get reported back to the district office. As a part of.
but I think that also this is looking at staff more than just this, the site council. That's how I'm looking at this. So it
Right.
kind of depends on how we're defining school leadership teams. Because when you go up to implementing, so it's the teams meet monthly to review school-wide academic and behavioral data in order to monitor school progress and make decisions. That to me sounds like a staff meeting,
Right.
a staff team, which we have them at almost every school. I don't know if they're meeting monthly, that's the PBIS teams.
I had to go to D to get an understanding, and like it says, the first one, school leadership teams are comprised of the site principal and educators representing general education, special education, and other student services. So then I could go back.
And look, at that's what we ultimately want, yeah. And
So does it come down to that being in addition to staff meetings? Like, is that?
Mhm.
I would say so, because staff meetings are often operational logistics. What I know, again, I would probably go with the laying the foundation because I could not tell you every month there are these kinds of meetings, but I do know, for example, the high school scheduled its WASC review team meetings. Hoopa L utilizes staff meetings to continue professional learning with the reading program. But I don't think that that's, universal across the district. I would say that
We have
still,
leadership teams, but they aren't necessarily the same type of team.
yes.
Because I know Karen has a leadership team,
Mhm.
but it must be the PBIS.
And do we pay people to be a part of it?
We're giving stipends to the leads and those, yes, for the PBIS part of it, but, in terms of moving that ahead in the MTA, that started with the school climate transformation grant, and the next step is to look at academics. We're moving kind of slow on that because we missed out on the first year of the grant, so. Based on that, I have two of you that said installing. Are you, we can either revote or you can go, okay, I'm gonna go ahead. So we are laying the foundation, minimal implementation for school leadership teams. That concludes component three, which is the leadership and governance. Oh, no, I'm sorry. My apologies. There's one more. I thought that was just three. So I'm on page 27. And so this is 3.4, the last one of this section. Rob, can you go ahead and read the 3.4, please?
Yes. 3.4, LEA support for teacher leadership for student achievement recognizes the critical role that LEAs play in building teacher ownership of student achievement by providing opportunities for teachers to collaboratively work or plan and work together on school improvement and professional learning.
2 minutes is up. there anybody that wants a couple more minutes? Not minutes, moments. Okay, would you go ahead and grab your ABCD card? And I'll take your vote.
I don't know, I need questions answered before I can vote.
Well, that's where you get to negotiate.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, and I would say if you cannot clearly say that you have evidence, then you gotta, you know, if you can't even get, then we're down to laying the foundation, which is not always a terrible place to be. So speaking of laying the foundation, Martha, okay. Thanks.
Okay.
So you're saying we're laying the foundation, not yet started, or?
Yeah, I guess it's because I'm kind of like Kadusha, I'm trying to understand what teacher leadership is, you know, specifically their, I mean, I guess we have some instances where, for example, there is leadership in the new implementation of
The reading, yeah.
Success for All. And we used to have a, you know, leadership teams, but we don't have them anymore, so. You know, I just haven't seen where specifically I could think of.
We do have minimum days.
I couldn't think of any specific teacher leaderships.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Right.
I'll do my vote.
Okay.
When you go up to the top, it says, providing opportunities for teachers to collaboratively plan and work together on school improvement and professional learning. And so I went back and we do have the early out days, which are Mondays now or something. And that's specifically for teachers to collaborate and plan, work together on implementation of their subject area or classroom. So that could be, you know, school improvement and professional learning amongst each other. So I said C, we're there. I almost went to D, except for I don't think they're doing professional learning planning opportunities. So I went back to C.
Anyone else have had B or C that just has other information or evidence that you could share?
I have a
We have
question.
a kind of a split, yes.
I have a question about identifying teachers as facilitators. How does that happen? I know nothing about it.
So I would say the evidence that I could present is, was this, so you're looking at, are you looking at C, identified as facilitators and collaboration settings? Or
even in installing, it says teachers, leaders are identified as facilitators
in some, and some versus all. And I would say with our reading program, there are, especially at Hoover Elementary, they went with the model of having grade band facilitators. So rather than having just one school-wide person, there's, I have to count, I think there's 5 people that are highly trained for their grade level components, and they meet in component teams. I think that fulfills that in terms of being in some collaboration settings. I wouldn't say in all. And then again, back to the PBIS is generally with teacher leaders, and that is some collaboration with staff outside of the team to move the PBIS, the positive behavior initiative, forward.
So it specifically says not considered for areas of leadership, and we clearly do have areas where we could be considered, where we do consider our teachers for areas of leadership, right?
Yes, but if you wanted to move up to the next level and that's the only component that, you know, fulfills C, then you would probably go back down to B, because you really need to Because even if it's true that teacher leaders at some sites are recognized by site administrators, I mean, that's very much the case at Hoop Elementary with the reading program. Well, I think at all the K-8 schools. This is tricky, again, not having a lot of information, so I'm gonna ask you all to vote again, because it's a pretty wide split. You would go ahead and grab your cards and I'll write down your new votes. Wait, Martha, where are you? I'm sorry, Deb, Carrie, I don't have yours, sorry.
I
Wait,
feel like I
so,
don't know enough.
Well, I really realize that our, and I'm not sure if that answers this, but in my mind, I see our principal talking with our teachers at our school and, you know, encouraging them and working with them and you know, getting them to be better teachers. And even we have had some retired teachers come in and we're, you know, work in the school with them from time to time. And I like to see more of that because, you know, that veteran teacher that's been there and been, you know, he might be able to, you know, be helpful to some of our younger teachers and encouraging them in different ways. And so, yeah, I think it's.
so, even without your vote, we're a reluctant C.
I think I can do C because I feel like
It does say at some sites.
It gives some, okay. I am gonna note C with kind of a
C minus.
a little bit of hesitation. I think we should be attentive to that. I think that this issue of teacher leadership comes up, and I think rather than guessing, like, let's make, you know, the board can make some decisions about how we want to do that. And I think there's also just something to new programs. How do you really get teachers to be leaders? I mean, in the classroom with the instruction, clearly that's where we're going to look. Is we need to have classroom teachers be the leads on the academic part. All right, C with a little reservation. So,
and I feel like I'm really hard on Hoopa Elementary, but I think they are doing well, doing better and well, doing better. They're doing well.
they're doing well. They, you know, and they're really the lead agency with the
Yeah,
reading
I
because.
think I will be.
Okay. So, that.
They're weller.
Well, that finishes 3. So I want to do a time check. Martha, can you ask? So the next section is about relationships. There's 3 parts to it. I just wanted to check in with you all. I mean, this I think was really important to leadership and governance. I think the relationships is equally important, but I just wanted to.
You want to keep going?
I'll defer to what the board would like to do.
I don't want to come back if it's just these 2 pages.
Is that what it is?
3
pages,
pages.
and there's
Oh, no, it is 2. It's, we'll start on page 46. There are only, let me check if there's 2 or 3. There are 3.
Okay, how
So-
many people?
That could be another, I would say 15 minutes at the time. I'm just gauging what we do.
How many people would like to stay?
Just a little bit, 7 4 5 1. Okay.
We'll go fast.
Oh, yeah. So we still have one.
I do, but we'll go fast.
Okay, so on page 47, Martha, we're back to you for reading 6.1, LEA communication with stakeholders in a clear and collaborative. We're at page 40. Yeah, we're on page 47. We're going to move over some of this.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'll set the alarm for 2 minutes once you.
LEA communication with stakeholders is a key strategy to foster two-way communication between stakeholders and our LEA by systematically gathering input on important topics and sharing information to collectively achieve our LEA vision and mission. Stakeholders are representative of our LEA's demographics and include students, parents, community members, teachers, staff, Board of Education, and others.
Okay, would anybody like additional time? Take your votes, A, B, C, D. Okay, thank you. Go ahead and put them down. Pretty spread. Okay, so installing the initial plan, this does, because this is written for all LEAs in the state of California, there's of course something that addresses where families where English is not their primary language. So some of the things we might not be appropriate for us. We do have some English learners in our district. So Rob or Tom, can you start us off with some of the evidence that shows that we are working towards implementation?
That we're working.
That we are installing. Yeah,
As
installing.
opposed to it's.
Yeah, the installing is work getting started on the implementation.
Well, we certainly do have at least, also, actually, I agree with everything in installing, so.
Okay.
I'll comment on, our LEA has a formal two-way structure for listening and communicating with stakeholders in all of its schools. I share a concern that we might want to have a more formal way to figure out why did we have 50 transfers out of our district, and a lot of them were from Willow Creek. I acknowledge that racism could be an important factor in it, and if that's the case, I don't think we can do anything about it. But if it's another factor, such as we don't have pre-calculus at our school or whatever, then I would want to know that, because we might be able to do something about that. So I don't see that we have a formal two-way structure for feedback from all of our parents. I think we could do a little bit better.
Anybody that has evidence in the implementing, that was pretty surely, oh, no. And Carrie. Evidence of implementing, sorry.
Okay, so a formal two-way structure is, we have our site council meetings. We also, in some schools, have PTO meetings. And we also have surveys that we've been doing, sending out to parents. So I think that's a two-way structure. The language is stakeholders, including parents and community, have multiple opportunities to exchange ideas in addressing school issues. I remember us even having Zoom meetings with parents to get information from them. So I feel that we are implementing and we're moving in the right direction of having technology be involved too.
Thanks. Does anybody want to add to some evidence? Some of you even said that there's continuous improvement and sustainability.
I think I was one of those. Was I?
You were.
Okay. I feel like we have stakeholder engagement meetings, we have Indian policies and procedures meetings, our board meetings, of course. But we also have a lot of technology. We have Parent Square. We had some of the teachers use, I can't think of the name of it, but I get feedback from teachers about my,
Seesaw?
Huh?
Seesaw?
no, it's something else, but it's like that.
Okay.
Yeah. We have, we're notified on Messenger, and we have robocalls, which actually isn't two-way, but we have our school websites and our district websites, and we have our superintendent's newspaper article. That's not really two-way either, I guess. But it does begin conversations. So I feel like we need to improve. I think I know the last like 40 years, we've been told we need to improve in communication. Oh, we also have, paper letters that go home and teachers send stuff. So we have a lot of communication going on, but of course, it's one of our, probably the top complaint I hear is we don't communicate. So evidently, even all the ways we are using to communicate, we still have to do better. So it needs to be in continuous improvement.
So I have a question. So with that was a lot of evidence, and you said that it's the top complaint. So do you feel like we are continuing? Is it to the level it's sustainable, or do we still need to add some? Like, if I stopped working hard at this, is it in place to get the
I think it's in
communication?
place. I think that it's sustainable, but because as technology changes and students go in and out, the people, because we have a new set of students every year. We often have the same parents and teachers and, but we do change people come in and go out. So our communication effort we have to keep communicating that we want to communicate.
So change of students and change of staff.
I think
Contribute to
the
that.
flow of people in and out of our communication network means that we still, we're always going to be having to improve our communication because we're going to be reaching more people. I don't even think that made sense.
I'd like to add to that. I think this is one area where we do well. We could improve. There's always room for improvement, but especially since Dana's been our public information officer, there's a lot of communication going out and two-way communication, asking for responses back. We do have our regular IPP meetings with stakeholders. And a lot of input. There's a lot of two-way going there. Our board meetings, we have public input, all the cards. And so we have had parents here giving us feedback. Now the Parent Square and some of these other things I'm trying to learn, but that's part of the continuous improvement, I guess. Websites and newsletters. With the websites, we do need to make sure that they are updated.
Yeah.
I went to the websites this week looking and specifically I was trying to figure out who teachers were. There's holes in what is on our website in a lot of different areas. Although it is a good tool, we need to continuously update those so that they reflect what is out there. But I think we have sustainability. Something we do need to look at is like school lunch menus. Some of the mundane things that we take for granted sometimes don't reach out there, and those could easily be put up on the websites, also sent home. there's a number of things that we have in place. We just need to keep them updated, and then as new things come on. I also think your radio programs have been very helpful in getting information out two-way. So I think we're doing good, better with the LEA communication, but some of the things that we are missing, which continuous improvement, are like, what are the updates? So if there's an outbreak of COVID at one site, we need to let the board know, we need to let the parents know that their house venue will be reassurance that we are doing our job. So I think we're there. We just need to continuously monitor and improve or keep it updated. It's not just something you do on this date and then it's done.
And yes.
And I think it's good that we are making attempts to do a better job of communicating with the tribes.
Right. That's what I wanted to kind of bring about, was that we are making attempts to communicate with the tribe. However, I don't think that the chairman should have to come here to request a meeting to ensure that that's going to happen. I think that a letter should have sufficed, and we could say, yes, we're going to have a meeting and get back to him. So I think we need to do a better job communicating with the tribes. Also, it says two-way, and I know that we do have parent councils, we do have the IPP meetings, we do have these meetings where people can come and express, but it's not a two-way communication if we don't have board members there. And I will be the first to admit, my first IPP meeting was this last meeting, and I've been on board for a year. And so I think that we can do a better job, like Tom says, we can do a better job. I too would like to know why we have 50 transfers out. And if we haven't asked that question, we need to be. We need to start looking at where our holes are and address it. And so I think that I said that we were.
You said C.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think some of our student transfers has to do with parents that wanted their kids to be in school back when we weren't having school. And because of the COVID dollars that kind of even larger families got a lot of money, they were able to afford to move into town or move to Weaverville or Reading or something like that. Then they wanted their kids in school, and that, and I think some of them is that. I certainly hope it's not because of racism. That would be not a good thing, and we should address that if that's the case and find a way to do that.
I did a summary last year, and a lot of them, the ITech building was a lot for the high school.
Yeah.
ITech building, parents working on the coast, so they wanted their children on the coast, so the babysitter issue. What was the other one?
The other one was the school closure.
And the school, yeah.
That was big. That was
ITech
for
was
elementary.
way up there.
So I think.
I just think that at every public meeting, we're getting people hollering at us, communication, communication, communication. So if that's the complaint, then we need to look at communications.
I would say.
I think that because, like I've said it, communication has been the buzzword since I've been involved in school. And so because we know we've communicated, now we've got to figure out how to get people to listen, because that's where a lot of the problem lies, or seek information. How do we get them to seek the information that they need? One of the ways is, to teach people how to use our websites. But again, our websites need to be improved, because it's really frustrating to go look at the school calendar on the website and it's not there. Not that I'm saying it's not there, probably. But I have that experience with another school district I was looking at. So people need, I think maybe more now is that we need to teach people how to communicate, or okay, or can I send you this message on Messenger? Can I send you this email? Yes.
I did raise a concern that kept me from voting for implementing, but in light of all the improvements that have happened, I would be comfortable with the C. And before I go to B first, I would be comfortable looking at the
I think one of the things in addition to, are those tools available? Are they really predictable? And I think that's what I'm thinking that you're getting at with, if somebody needs to know something, are they gonna go, well, should I look on Facebook, or am I going to get a text, or should I go to the website, so that a parent, because these are our customers, always knows and has, and I think that predictability part, and I think that that feeds into the documented, systemic, and formal, is that nobody misses anything because we've established these are the ways that we will send out communication. So even if we're doing it a lot, is it, that doesn't mean fail proof or, 100%, but is it more often, our families will know where to go to get the information that they need to make decisions, versus we're just kind of randomly flooding things out there. So those are some things to consider in terms of the really advanced, sustainable part of evaluation.
But again, it's, people have to seek, I
See,
remember a father with 4 kids in our school, and this back in the days when the only communication we really had was to depend on paper communication. That dad got 12 notices because he had 4 kids in school. So he got 12 notices about a site council meeting, but he finally came to the site council meeting and said, I never got any information. And I was like, I don't know how else to get that to you. So anyway, that, having said that.
When I was in elementary school, we used to pin them on my shirt.
no.
Yeah.
Are you all ready to re-vote on this? Because there was a pretty big spread.
Where do we stand on?
We had B's, C's, and D's for your vote.
I mean, how many in each area?
We have 2 Ds, I'm sorry, 3 Ds, the continuous improvement, 2 Cs of implementing, and 2 Bs of installing. So if everybody could live, I don't know if anybody's comments pulled us one way or the other. I don't want to.
We'll meet in the middle.
Go back to B.
Okay. All right. But that seems like a more confident C than the last one, where it was a little reluctant. So I think Carrie, you're next for 6.2.
6.2, LEA community partnership, enhance the achievement of students by providing external resources that benefit our LEA and schools. That's page 49.
Okay.
External resources. Okay.
Would you please let me know if you need more time? I'll take your votes. Okay, go ahead and put your votes down. Thank you. We have 4 Bs, 3 Cs. So
I would have gone for C, except for it said resulting in improved student performance in all schools.
Oh.
So Martha, you voted C,
I did.
and let's see, Tom, Kadisha, and I miscounted. So does that change your vote with that, in terms of occasionally assess? I'm sorry.
We have a lot of, I mean, up in Orleans, we have tribal stuff, we have liquid, the agency doing lots of gardening and a lot of outdoor education, fisheries. We have the Forest Service who does a lot of out, you know, they come into this. We have quite a few. In fact, the teachers sometimes go, there's too much stuff going on, you know. So in Orleans, and I think that's true of Witchpack. And in Jack Norton, does it come
I
all the way
think they
down there?
welcome, yeah, they do sometimes.
So that's true in the smaller schools, and I don't know about.
And that's where I was in all schools, and Trinity Valley was the one I wasn't sure of what outside agencies they utilize.
Okay.
Tribal education. Two feathers.
I felt like the high school has a lot. They have Two Feathers, they have Foster Youth, they have the Rainbow Coalition. Megan with her CRDRS or whatever it is, comes in and does canning. You know, they have a lot at the high school, but they don't at the elementary school. And I would, looking at that, it changes mine. So I would go with B. I'll change mine to B.
Tom, do you want to sway the board or anything that keeps us, you at C?
Well, sticking with Laura Lee's a better reader than I am.
Me too, apparently.
So on my second reading, it looks like this rubric is stressing that how they are assessed, how the relationship, not just are they there, and certainly they are there. What came to my mind in being there was it was COVID, how much we've been able to use tribal health departments and county resources, how much we've been using Humboldt County Office of Education for training purposes. So I went with C because we are doing more than I've ever seen with outside agencies. But perhaps we should periodically be assessing, which are these working, you know, are these organizations that are coming into Orleans Elementary School, are they actually useful, or are the teachers saying, well, you know, it's just interfering with my reading time, et cetera. So I'd be comfortable going back to a B and saying it's wonderful that we're doing them, but perhaps we should be assessing them too. It's something that had never occurred to me. I don't know if they're working or not.
So Martha, you're the holdout on the C, or do you feel, well, Kadisha and Tom said that they would go
Okay,
to B, just with the limitations of really having the implementation, but if you want to.
yeah, I guess the assessment, I didn't really, I was looking at that on D, so I'm fine. Let's do D.
Okay, sounds like consensus for B installing. Oh, last.
So with this report that we had, is there a way that we can track any of those, like those questions that we had about, you know, where did students go, why did they leave, and, you know, how can we bring these scores out?
Oh, yeah, and we're actually looking at not only doing the things, but for doing the analysis.
Oh, okay, that's
Actually,
what I
yeah.
meant, yeah.
So the last one is for 6.3. I think, Tom, you're up for reading. I thought there were only two here, but the final
What page is it
component,
on?
it's on 51.
Clear and collaborative relationship, stakeholder engagement. LEA engages all stakeholders in the planning and implementing processes. Recruit participants of family and community members who are representative of the student population. Our LEA seeks input from parents and community for LEA and school decision-making. Our LEA promotes parent and community participation in school programs.
Okay, would anybody like more time? If not, I'll take your votes.
Oh, goodness, we're all over the place.
Okay, thank you. Majority is RVs, so at the very least, there's agreement that we are installing. Could you give an example of something that supports that? And then we'll-
So I felt like we didn't meet implementing when it asks if our schools are assessing how parents perceive the quality of the partnership. I don't know that we have policies that encourage parent representation on committees that reflect the composition of the school LEAs. And I'm not sure, and I would say that if we have some engagement, I'm not sure that it's meaningful engagement of parents, students, and other stakeholders. So I felt good about installing. Although I don't know that we assess parent view on partnership at all. So that's why I went back to installing.
Was somebody with C or D?
I was waffling on the assessment part. And I don't know if some of our schools in the LEA assess. I'm willing to go back to a B, but I thought we did really a very good job in implementing the LCAP with all of the meetings that happened throughout the district. But again, the assessment part, I don't, that go back to B.
Do you have, I go back to my question, do we have an answer to whether we have policies that encourage representation?
Well, before COVID, I feel like that we were doing a lot of things, like especially Margot with her, Indian education program. She was getting schools, having get-togethers in schools every month at least. And serving, like different types of food and having surveys and playing games with parents and kids. Like at every school that was going on. Did you participate in any of those?
That would have been before I was on the school board.
I did. I
Oh,
went
no,
to
but
I went
I
to
had no idea.
a couple at Hoopa L. It was I think it was around art, and another one on science or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
A long time ago.
what came to my mind, basically those, the LCAP and all of those engagement meetings. However, the assessment part is where I don't know if we ever assess anything we
To
do.
me, like we have sent out surveys, we have student parent surveys, but that could just be. Just seems like council does something like that. But yeah, I don't know if that's a just required.
So there's two things I heard. One is about policies, and I think that that's really the question. Things may be happening, but are there policies? And I would say that we fall short of that, where we know predictably that these things are gonna happen. And there's lots of good things that are happening. It's kind of what our district is famous for. We do a lot of really amazing events for families and services for students, but is it something that we can count on it? So if the one person who does that isn't available, is it still gonna happen? So I would say, is it a policy? I don't know the answer to that. And I would say probably not if I had to commit one way or the other. And there are still good things happening. It's kind of banking on good luck and good people versus policies where you have an assurance regardless of who's in the position. So I would say we fall short there. And we do have parent service. The parent survey is part of the LCAP, so that is district-wide, and it asks just a few questions. It was through the California Healthy Kids Survey, but it went out in the middle of us having nobody on campus. So it's very weak participation, but there is an intent to have that.
What did she say?
Is the fish fair happening at all schools?
It
Is
didn't
it
happen.
something we can count on?
I think it is actually, yeah, it is, because they're still doing their run and stuff.
Well, the run, I understood, Margot gave it to Amalia to do.
Oh, okay.
That's not a school thing anymore.
Oh, okay.
That's a rumor. I can't.
So in writing your summary, can we make note that this is an assessment of COVID time where we are not up to par like we were at one time? I mean, and that's not our fault. But if we can make a note in that assessment, because I agree, we did have some really good things happening before COVID. I didn't know that the fish fair was given away to somebody.
Not the fish fair, the run.
The run was given away to somebody. That's not good.
Well, those were those were separate things to start with anyway. The run was not, and the fish fair were two.
Yeah, I
They started out
specifically asked
separate.
about the fish fair.
Yeah.
Oh, the fish fair, that's something in the school, the fish fair.
Fish fair, Rhonda Marshall was implemented that. The run was implemented by high school students.
Right.
And that my granddaughter Kayla was in on that.
That was a school, yeah, that was a.
And it was a school thing.
So I think that the issue of this being during COVID times, I think that what the pandemic has just concentrated and highlighted the holes in the system. So I think that is significant. And I think that things that are in place, if there are systems in place for communicating out to families, then we would have utilized them effectively for saying, hey, there's XYZ issue is happening. And I think that when we get frustrated that things aren't communicated out, it's because they might not have really been strongly in place. And you know, you have changeover in
The only
administrators as well.
The only policy I can come up with off the top of my head is our Indian policies and procedures that require a parental.
And then there's statute. I mean, we have the parent advisory committee. that comes up with-
This is gonna get granted.
All right, so are you all at D, installing? Without, okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, David.
You're not ready for it yet?
Oh,
Are we ready?
Keep these for the other work and.
I don't know that we'll do the other portion. You can leave whatever you'd like. You want to take it and read it. I have the notes that I'm gonna, do a summary on. I don't have the plan of doing the other portion, but it's good to look at though. Rob seconded.
Yes.